Hey everybody. Welcome to Commentary Track Comparisons Why the Last Man presented by the Triple C Collective. I'm your host Jimmy Clark, and with me today is our co-host
Ed Norton.
And we are going to dive into episode 4 of Why the Last Man. We're almost there. We're almost halfway there.
Oh,
Come on.
no.
No? Okay, whatever. Can't sing. Sorry about that. Quick recap. 3 questions for us that I've got. Where is Beth? Still don't know where she is. We didn't see her at all. We also didn't see Hero or Sam. So where are they? Are they with Beth? Did they find Beth? Maybe.
Probably not.
I hope. Maybe. I don't know. Then the third and final question that I have as the recap before we dive in is, can 355 be trusted?
Well, of course, where's Beth? I mean, that's going to be the ongoing question, I think, for the rest of the season.
Probably not wrong.
No. Asking where is Hero and Sam, they weren't at all in the last episode. So, yeah, it's a very valid question. Where are they? And can 355 be trusted? That's got to be up in the air for a lot of the viewers now because of the fact that,
She took out two Medal of Honor receiving pilots.
Well, I mean, she gave them the Medal of Honor just so they thought that they could trust her.
Yeah, I know.
And then in the end, the main plan was, okay, they trust me now, I'm going to kill them. Yeah. So, that's why can 355 be trusted right now. And as you stated in the last episode, I think you said, Yorick even had that kind of look on his face of, I might actually be in danger. So yeah, that's a big question too. And leading into that, I mean, leading off of that, the next episode starts off with 355.
Yeah, she has this fever dream dance singing opening, and first off, Ashley Roman's got a set of pipes on her. She can sing.
That is her singing.
I can only assume so.
Okay.
So to be fair, later on in this episode, we see an interaction with some state troopers.
Mm-hmm.
I checked to see if Eliza Clark put herself in that because I thought that might be a nice little scene of her being able to be in the background of an episode of the show that she's that she developed and everything and all that. So I checked to see if she was in there, and in checking only IMDb, at no point did it say that somebody else had done the singing for Ashley Romans or anyone else. I didn't see that that Eliza Clark was in that scene. She was not, according to IMDb. Okay. But also, while looking through stuff on this episode on IMDb,
so it didn't say that she wasn't.
It didn't say that ex-singer or somebody else came in to sing.
We can assume that it was her, and it was a beautiful scene and very good vocals.
Yeah. Nice set of pipes on her.
I liked that scene a lot. After rewatching it, kind of really piecing it together, you notice that there's an off shot of 355 dancing and singing, but it's the camera's behind a little girl, actually a young girl, and she has her hair kind of like up in pigtails or kind of puffs on the side, and from what I got from that whole scene, I think this is kind of... So I think she's sleepwalking, which is why she ends up at that cliff.
Yeah.
And I didn't pick up on that at first when I first watched it, and then all of a sudden it snapped into me. I was like, oh, God, I didn't realize she was almost died right there.
Yeah, right.
So I think she's sleepwalking.
It's so jarring and it works.
Yeah.
Though, for it. But continue.
Plus the lighting and that, the darkness, tones.
I thought she was actually going to see a car because you see the red light flashing in it. It almost looked like a hazard light on a car.
So that is my next point about that. I think what this dream is referencing to her parents who died in a car crash. Her parents died in an accident, so I think with those flashing red lights, and you notice it's kind of like a headlight. Oh,
and that might be there. And this song she's singing is their type of music that they might have listened to.
I also think that with her dancing and everything, that shot of behind the little girl and her watching the performance that's 355 as a young child when it's happening, and what she's viewing though is the performance actually is kind of like another reference of how things can be so happy and joyous and beautiful can quickly turn to tragic.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how she was viewing her childhood. It was a beautiful childhood. In the comic book, she talks about how much of a influence her father was on her, how intelligent he was, and how he taught her so much in life, and then how abruptly it all ended. And I think that's what you see with the flashing lights is 355 seeing the beautiful moment that she's having quickly turn tragic, and that can also be foreshadowing of right now everything like my mission. This can go swimmingly, but in a snap of the finger, boom, it could be the biggest
Tragedy.
disaster. Yeah, tragedy, the biggest disaster ever. On top of what the tragedy that we're living through right now.
Yeah. Yeah, everything about that opening is really great. Again, Ashley Roman's killing it, singing, and it was very jarring, and like it got me there. And like we were talking about at the end of episode 3, at the that we found the episode. I didn't want to use the word boring, but a little slow, in a very slow burn in what it was trying to do, and really the action didn't happen until the third act, truly in every conceivable way you can think of. Here, they had me in 30 seconds in with it, because everything about it, starting off with like the dress, the like jazzy song and stuff, like it was all just so different than what we had started with, even in the doom and gloom of like the winter death and stuff, even the opening of that episode 1. Going on to like this was so different. So like I was just sucked in, and I don't know if if the previous 3 episodes from like 30 seconds in sucked me in as like, oh, this is interesting. Like this isn't like, I don't know what this is. Why am I seeing this? And I'm intrigued.
This episode immediately kind of dragged you in with that opening sequence. Especially because it gives you a little bit of backstory to 355. Given it doesn't give you much, I mean, we kind of just know where it could be going due to the fact that we've read the comic books. We know we technically know the history of 355, but for new viewers, like, it's a little glimpse of what could possibly be her backstory, where she came from, and everything like that. So, it's a very, very good opening scene, and then it leads into, they're out in the woods, they're camping out, and then we finally get a little bit more of that York 355 banter.
Yeah.
This is like the second conversation we really had between them and their bonding moments and the relationship. They clearly know a little bit more about each other, even though it's probably only been a couple days since their last conversation at the Pentagon.
Yeah, probably.
It's most likely been a couple days. And I really liked that whole sequence between them on how basically York is that sarcastic jerk again, and she's just shutting him down the entire time. Strict, like, one-word answers, very stern and sharp with her responses. And
the York being like, Agent Bergen, and then 355, that's not my name. What? What is real with you,
lady? No, seriously? What's with you, lady? Okay, my name is not, and you definitely will not call me lady. My name is 355. All right.
Fine, you can call me Trapezoid.
Call me Trapezoid. I identify as Trapezoid. So it was that banter is what we got throughout the entire comic books, and in the comic books it starts off right away. Yeah. Like that happens immediately. That's how they talked from the beginning. I do like the transition of she is a secret agent. Okay, yeah. She is a very disciplined human being, and I like how it kind of did a slow start into that banter, because my next point was like you could see that she's going to open up soon, and I think that's what kind of a hint was at the opening sequence is like we're going to get a little bit more bits and pieces of who 355 is, what her backstory
Giving us those
is.
Little
breadcrumbs, just sprinkle a little bit of what is this? So I did like that banter a lot. I thought it was really interesting, and it was fun. It was very fun.
And we get the we get 355 and Yorick asking 355 about the choppers and the pilots, like, take apart the bolts, don't pick the whole thing up. And when we say the whole thing, she said a generator.
It's a generator, yeah.
355 calls it a generator later on. Totally just looked like a rotor motor for it. Like, if I'm going to be honest, a rotary motor, but whatever. Just take the bolts out and stuff. And they talk about the pilots, and, like, York again gives this look of, like, you are, like, truly cold-blooded.
Yeah.
Like, you are a cold-blooded killer. You are extremely dangerous. And I'm going to give you the most attitude that I can.
Yeah.
Because
he knows what really happened. He's pretty much figuring out what's happening. Like, she will do anything to keep him a secret, and that was part of it.
And that even if it means taking out virtually 2 innocent bystanders who just literally happenstance for it. Like, oh, you guys are going to New York?
Yeah.
Okay, you're taking me with.
Yeah.
Any other pilots? No, those are the only 2 there. So, like, that's a question that I also have. It's like, I don't remember if they said that they had any other, like, true pilots over there. Because clearly 355 is like a Swiss Army knife. She knows how to do a little bit of everything. And do they have any other pilots still back at the Pentagon? I would assume so.
I would assume so, too.
But, like, again, those 2 kind of seem to be, like, the pilots. So it'll be interesting to see when we get back to, like, the Pentagon and all that stuff, what's going on with them, how they deal with the loss of 2 helicopters and stuff, because that, like, has to be addressed. And, like, they even talk about it here at some point. 355 in York about, like, the helicopters and, like, what are we going to do about them? Like, what's going to happen to them? Well, 2 rogue people stole the helicopters and crashed them.
Yeah, and 355 makes a point to say that, they'll be looking for the two pilots that stole the helicopters, and then he gives the look of, like, oh, okay, yeah, right.
And I wonder if that look is actually reflection on, is my mom in on this too?
Yeah.
Like, did she
know?
Does she know? Did she okay the operation as well? Because that's, like, also like, ooh, I didn't think my mom would be so cold.
Yeah.
Right? Then we get the people that we started out at the top of the episode with. Question number 2: where's Hiro and Sam? We find Hiro and Sam finally. We get to them. Or was there something else about Yorick and 355 here?
No. Yeah, leading into Hiro and Sam. Yeah, questions finally answered. They make their way on what is like a farm almost. They break it into a house.
Which, based on the conversation, they get into a house, and they're kind of, like, still traveling. It seems to be, like, kind of a big house, maybe like a, I don't know. It gave the illusion that it is a bigger than, like, let's call it a 2-level house. It seemed to be bigger of wherever they were, because they leave one building and go to another building that was clearly stable.
I got
a car was in there.
I got, like, the first initial reaction I had.
It's almost like a big farm, but
it's a big farm. But the house that I originally had, my initial reaction to it was it almost looked as if it was like a retirement home.
Uh-huh.
But then again, with all those stairs, I don't think it was.
Good point.
But I mean, it seems like it is almost a farm or a ranch area, because there is a giant barn that they end up going into.
They find the car.
Find the car.
Classy lady.
Yeah, classy lady, which I thought was very funny.
Hilarious.
Nice little joke. My biggest issue was.
Did you see the eyelashes?
Yeah, I saw the eyelashes. That was not my issue, but my biggest issue was...
We're talking about eyelashes on the headlights
of the
car that they find.
I think it's a Charger, maybe? I think it is a Charger. I don't know.
Yeah.
Either way...
I don't know cars.
Yeah, neither do I. But, yeah, my biggest issue, of course, was, Sam's excitement when that car actually starts. And it's like, oh my god, this kills so much time. And then immediately Hero's face just dropping.
Right?
And it's just like... Dude, and then she starts coming up with excuses. I thought I would have one more day because she just doesn't want to see her mom.
Right, and so hero, you're not being a hero here. This is another tick for me in the column of hero is like a top 5 character I think overall in the comic for me.
Yeah, she's
Like,
awesome in the
like,
comic.
and like, so now this is where like I have problems with how they're setting her up, and I'm not necessarily enjoying it. And it's things like her initial, like this whole like nope,
It's constantly saying no to everything.
and they haven't given me enough of the background yet of hero to make it viable. I don't understand.
So, like, here's my big issue. Okay, in the comic book, Hero it isn't necessarily on the best terms with her mother or her father, but that's due to like a different type of like teenage rebellion for her.
Mm-hmm.
It's not this tragic, dark backstory that the show is giving her, which
Yeah.
I am not a big fan of the backstory. I've like stated this several times, even just in conversation with you, that I'm tired of the broken girl, the girl with no path. Like Hero in the comic books kind of had a path. Yeah, she was a little brokenhearted when she was a young teen. But when she got older, she kind of found herself. She said, "I want to become an EMT," and then her parents were like, "Well, why would you do that?" And they thought it was about money and stuff. Her relationship with her mother was kind of torn in the comic books because her mother was more arrogant, politician. Her father was this studious professor who thought he knew basically everything. That was kind of the rift between them. In the show, though, it's like it's just like, oh, she's just this rebellious teen that like almost like, oh, she just does drugs and she drinks nonstop and like she causes problems for everyone. And it's like
there's a list of what the problem or the issue child or person does, and they're just kind of ticking off boxes here.
And this is cliche for me.
Yeah,
this is cliche. Like this is routine for the broken girl, and because I mean in the comics, as we stated before, Hero ends up with the Amazons and stuff like that. She ends up with a different type of rebellious group. I don't think you need this story for her to get there.
In book 2, she fights with the Amazons, and like they come to heads in book 2 here, and like a nice thing, and it's great. Like you really see her take on like this authoritative role and stuff. And here, the car starting and her face dropping, I was like, and like I started getting ready to start pulling out my hair, being like, why can't you? Why? I just don't understand.
So this is another issue that I have with the backstory too, is because I think Sam is a very likable character.
Yeah.
Sam is asking his friend for a favor to help him out because he is scared for his life as a man.
Yep.
He has no testosterone or anything like that. He said 2 weeks the last time he talked about testosterone. He had 2 weeks of dosage left. That's it. And I am getting so tired of Sam just asking for a favor from this broken, lost, selfish friend of that she wasn't in the comic books, which again I'm still upset about. And yet he compromises for her. He does everything she wants. And she still is such a terrible friend to him. And then it comes down to the car in the end. Mm-hmm. She lets him go to sleep, and then she sneaks out, gets him high, makes him go to sleep,
right?
Sneaks out, and then does something to the car.
Yeah. I mean, like, so while they're getting high, they stay the night in this farmhouse, whatever place that they find that's abandoned, and then like with the barn also on the property. They decide to spend the night there. They still have a joint left or whatever. They're smoking it, and then we get some stuff that we haven't touched on now, probably since episode 2,
Mm-hmm.
and since we met the wife of the EMT, we get his name
Yeah.
in this. His name is Mike. It was Joe in the comic. It's just nice to know that we have a name for him. So we find that out, but Hiro is also still lying to Sam in the fact that true Hiro died with him, not the way that Sam believes, and doesn't really admit that she murdered this guy.
No. She just says that she was with him, and then he says...
well, actually, she doesn't say anything. She just lets Sam kind of...
No, she says she was with... She says, I was with Mike.
Yeah.
She doesn't, like, really detail on what was going on, but he knows what happened.
Yeah. Well, because then, like...
He knows that they were together, and then he says he died a happy man.
Died a happy man. I know he was your boss. You know, like, he gives the list of, like, why Hiro has been such a controversial character and kind of not necessarily super easy to like right off the bat. You know, she's a homewrecker. Granted, that dude Mike was her boss, so like that's also really messed up on his end.
I just thought it was a partner.
Yeah,
I didn't know it was her boss that when they were driving. They were EMTs though, so like.
Maybe it's a senior.
It doesn't matter. That's not something we need to go into because the guy's dead.
But we also get the story of Benji and Karen, which is what the episode title is called.
Yeah.
And it's just a boy who likes to ride horses, and Karen. Oh God, who was Karen in that?
I don't remember.
The mom?
I don't remember.
Either way, they just use it as a fake story for themselves later on. And the sabotage. Is that the final strike?
So the thing is that right before that sabotage happens on the car is that line that Hiro says that the last thing her mom basically called her was
cruel.
selfish, self-destructive, and cruel. And I was like, it's true, she is. But then again, she didn't need this type of backstory. She didn't need this type of depth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, anything that we got from the comic book, her mom wasn't going to talk to her like that. And everything that has been happening so far with Jennifer Brown and her actual concern for Hiro doesn't make it seem like she would have ever said that to Hiro. Like, nothing has given me that type of reasoning to believe that President Brown said that to her daughter the last time they saw each other. But at the same time, it's like you gave her this backstory, so let's just pepper it on a little bit more. Like, it kind of bugged me. And then the sabotage happens, and
it's hard to be a fan of her.
It's really hard to be a fan of Hiro when you're a super big fan of her in the comic books, even when she's still technically a bad person. I mean,
because in the comics she's not necessarily super great to her brother in certain points and stuff either. So I'm cool with having a character be conflicted and like, you know, kind of being on the edge, being edgy and stuff. Like, that's fine, but like, I don't know. It's hard to like her. I feel like we've done a really big hate party on Hiro here, and I feel like we should probably move on.
Yeah, it's just hard though, because it is hard because, like we said, like, she is a big part of the comic books, and you really do connect with her, and they do a good job at explaining on why she has such a hard time. In this one, it's just like I said, it's just a cliche story that they use for why somebody could be bad, like how they could turn bad or turn to a certain direction or group or something like that, and I just don't like that cliche. So
I wonder though if this is a setup to make her an anti-hero in the show. Then
I mean, possibly.
Let's mull that over then.
Yeah.
For future,
because
that's a question that I wonder. And it doesn't. I'm not trying to hint that we get an answer to that in this episode, not in any way, shape, or form. It is definitely a question to think about going forward, because like she does have in the comics and stuff. She does do some battles with some people, both on the good and both on the side of who we would consider like our heroes and stuff, and like then villains or the antagonists to them. And so. But then we get York in 355, and we get some more of like the funny lines of York being like, "I swear it's not porn. It's just me and my girlfriend."
Yeah.
And 355's like, "Bro, I don't care."
Yeah.
Man. Like you giving me you telling me this explanation is telling me enough as it is. But then we get we also get the bit of them doing of like 355 being like, "Take your clothes off."
Yeah.
And he's like, "What?
Yeah.
Squeeze me? Baking powder?" But his best line that he says in like his fight or whatever about like stripping down in front of 355. "Oh, it's cold."
Yeah.
Is by far though of, "All right, turn around. I don't want you getting distracted by any sexy thoughts." And like,
she just doesn't oblige.
She doesn't oblige, but her Ashley Romans, your dead face Blake stare is up there with the greatest ever. Because she gives it right after that line of the of like the sexy thoughts, and her response is like, "I don't think that's an issue." Or like, "That's not going to be a problem," or whatever. And that face after she gives that line reading is just, it's so good. She is so great. I love Ashley Roman. She does a really great job as 355. She might be, other than Diane Lane, maybe my favorite person that's been like cast and stuff in here. She's definitely been like my favorite at like actor cast to character, because I think she's just nailing it in every conceivable way for the character. I am always zoned in whenever 355 is on screen. And that's really all we kind of get with them. You know, it's kind of a quick little bit. And then we get a quick cut back to Sam trying to fix the car. It's not like Sam, Hero, back at the home. They leave there because the car's not working, and neither one of them are mechanics. And at this point, they like, you just hear Sam kind of scream like, "Ah!" like in frustration. And then we see him in like a Walgreens
convenience store,
like a corner convenient type store, because they're looking at like birthday cards. Then a little orange kid's ball rolls by. That's strange.
Yeah.
They're concerned. And then they go down an aisle and they meet Mac.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh.
So that got me really excited, because Hero and Nora cross paths. And as I said before, I think Nora is going to be a huge part of Hero's progression throughout this series. And this could be the start of it. So
super
excited about that.
As much as we have just been kind of being naysayers to Hero, this is a tick in a Hero positive story.
Yeah, this is moving in the right direction now.
Because now Hero being involved with Nora and Mac is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of Sam being there as well, and having the question of like, how? Think about it. That was it. Nora shows up eventually in the middle of Hero cleaning out, kind of investigating what's going on with Mac's leg, because as we find out, Mac's leg is still pretty infected and like needs like antibiotics.
Yeah.
Things that Nora clearly didn't have. She didn't have it last episode or anything like that, and they are still roughing it. Hero asks where they are staying, and they are staying there. They like Nora gives a slight look around, like, we're staying here in this store. This is all that we have.
Yeah.
And then they go back to the to that home that they were at with the busted car the car that Hero busted.
Yeah.
The best thing about this is the shock and disbelief and complete and utter failure that Nora expresses on her face when Sam grabs the axe out of her hand. Like, I don't know if I have ever felt someone feel more broken on screen in a long time. Like, that look, even in the wide shot, it's not even a close-up, it's a wide shot. Like, it's like they got the camera set up down the hall. Like, there's a good 20 feet between the camera and, like, where the action is happening here. And it is so good because you see Nora, she just turned, and is just in pure shock of it. Beautiful. Again, love Nora. She is amazing. Yep. Love the character. We get that another point in Hero's direction. I got to give it to her. Is I like her medical professional like switch that she does. Like, whoa, hey, I'm just trying to help your kid out.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to hurt her. Wasn't trying to do anything. And then like once Nora's like, oh, you're really not trying to like eat my kid because I recognize who you are.
Yeah.
Right? Do you think that's the moment that Nora... Do you think Nora recognizes her right then?
Yeah, I think Nora recognizes her right off the bat.
I don't think she does, because initially she's like, no. She's like, get away from my daughter.
No, but Joe, she screams that before Hero even looks up.
Right. So at first, I don't think she.
So that's what she couldn't. Well, I'm saying is that she couldn't see Hero, and then when Hero looks up at her, it's kind of like, okay, yeah.
And then
that's why, like, when it gets further on, I mean, I know it's jumping ahead a little bit. But
no, we can talk about it
in the episode. Later on in the episode, when they're sitting in that house together, Mac's already gone to sleep, and they're talking a little bit. And when she asks the names, and that's where Benji and Karen come up, and when she hears Karen, her face changes right away, just like, okay, and then she just straight up says her own name, like as in like, it doesn't really matter if they get a fake name. Like, I already know who this girl is. She may not know me, but I'm going to be honest with her. Yeah. Which can also be, straight off the bat, like, when you think about it, I'm going to be honest with her, give her my real name. Which can lead into a trust kind of bonding for Hero to Nora.
Because Nora clearly knows the importance of having Hero traveling with them. Because if people find out who she is, she becomes automatically a huge trading bargain or a bargaining chip for anybody trying to get anything.
Yeah.
Because it is the daughter of the President of the United States who is currently not by her mother's side.
Yeah.
That is a huge get.
She's a bargaining chip for Nora, but she's also a bargaining chip for everybody.
Right. And so I like the strategic Nora play here.
Yeah.
Like, that play of that is reminiscent of her talking about the turkey and not really shooting a turkey ever, but knowing the gun and the bullet and how to shoot the turkey the right way to have that conversation, because she knows how to play that game.
Yeah.
And so it's also interesting because at that same conversation, she also talks about how they were at a Target twice and how they were mugged twice and how they're easy targets. And so it's so great to see for Nora, because Nora got a W. Like, she's got a W here, and Nora knows she has a W. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
Nora needed this win, this secret win, without anyone else really knowing it, and it's great. And we'll get into that a little bit more, because then
that is technically the end of the episode. So, we'll get into that, and let's move on to the next.
We get more York in 355, but this one's different.
Yeah,
this is different because then we get the Like, this is very what I called in our notes here. I called it, we got the market, and this is how, like, literally I felt book 2 open. They're at a train station here with a bunch of people, and they are, in the comic, they are looking to sell a motorcycle. In the show, they are looking to buy one because, again, roads are still really blocked in the show and in the comic, and the easier way to travel, other than by if trains are available, we haven't seen something like that yet in the show, but motorcycles seem to be the easiest mode of transportation because you are still able to weave in and out of kind of pile-ups and backups on highways and streets.
They can be multiple terrains. Mm-hmm. So, but before that though, there is the scene with the scavengers at the campsite.
Yes.
And I did just want to say real quick, and then we could go right back to the market because that is a very good scene. That whole sequence is really good. Yeah. So. Yorick running at the scavengers. So, like, 355 talking him down, basically kind of intimidating.
355 was cleaning her clothes. Yorick went to go clean his clothes. 355 hears scavengers going through their stuff at their campsite after almost shooting a bunny in the face with a gun.
Yeah. So basically what happens is, she's talking down.
Yeah.
She's talking down these scavengers, letting them know she doesn't have anything to trade. She wants them to leave immediately. She's got her hand on her gun, which is in her back, her belt in the back.
Yeah.
And then Yorick comes running out with his gas mask on and a stick, screaming as much as he can. And I just wanted to say,
screaming gibberish and stuff
like straight out of the comic books. Yorick was always so reckless and so goofy and stuff like that. And I just loved that scene because it really brought out, like, that's who Yorick is. And that's who you're going to see a lot of.
And it brings another little bit of the clash in there, too, between Yorick and 355. As much as they bond and, like, become friends and, like, they travel great together and, like, everything they do together is really amazing in the comics and stuff. They also clash and they have difference of opinions and ways of things should be done. And we also get the rules. We got the 355 being like, we need to lay down some ground rules for you. And Yorick being like, no.
No, there's no ground rules.
No. But we get then we get to the market. And the market might be, this 10 minutes in the market here might be some of the best 10 minutes of the show that we've seen.
It's got a lot of what's it like anticipation, like
there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of energy, it moves, it grooves, it's great. Everything about it just hits it on all cylinders. And for everything that you want, because
it starts off a little slow, like, bargaining, and then all of a sudden, boom, he thinks he sees Beth. So then all of a sudden, bam, heart rate goes up.
We get the Stady comment first.
The Stady comments, yes.
We get once the cops, the state troopers, they find a seller. The Stady's wives and their kids. They find a seller who's going to sell them a motorcycle. And
for a live grenade,
and
the quote unquote generator.
And then to the booth next to him, we find out about Stadies who take their own little cut of whatever they want for the people running the booths, and that breaks it, and that sets up the timer of the score. I didn't necessarily mention this in episode 3, but because the last quarter of it. The last act is where I noticed the score. It really started to pick up for me, and it really. But I mean, that was all also about how good that third act is. But in this right here, it starts to pick up. You start getting that kinetic energy. You get the bang on the table, and it takes everyone's attention away. And then we get the. Where's Beth?
Yeah.
Did we finally get our question answered? We've been asking it for now into episode 4. Last 4 episodes. Where's Beth?
No, it didn't answer the question.
No, it didn't. But it does set up a really fantastic chase.
So that was interesting. Like, I liked that little scene that kind of... It actually seemed kind of slow-moving. slow moving, and like the music kind of was like a little bit more subtle, a little bit more soothing. But my thing was, it's like he lost her quick.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, he was right behind her, and nothing really got in his way, and then the stairs come, and all of a sudden, like, she was gone. But yeah, it was a cool little chase scene. I liked that little, like I said, it almost seemed like it was a little bit slower. Not in a bad way, like, it was more like the distance, it was getting further and further away. Almost like a dream sequence. Like, when you can't grab onto something.
And that's why I love it, is because they set it up in a way of confusion wait, did I
see Beth?
Did I? Yes,
Yeah.
I did. No, I didn't. Yes. That has to be her. It can only be her.
Yeah.
And, like, you get those as he keeps moving, goes around the corner, jumps over the railing of the stairs to go down, and then once he pops open and you see him, like, probably underneath grandstands, like stadium seats or whatever it is, that's where it kind of looks like.
Under the bleachers.
Yeah, under the bleachers for a makeout session with Beth. But no, she's not there. Okay. He's by himself. That's where, whatever.
It's weird.
So
it was weirdly done, but
whatever. But then he gets there and she's gone, poof, gone, like imaginary.
And security just like all of a sudden pops up on him. So I found it funny with how quickly security found him or whatever. I think it was just passerbyers. I think it was just passerbyers and they saw him and they're like. But the problem, my biggest, is not really an issue. It was like something I noticed was. The one that like pulls the gun on him and tells him to stop right away. She looks like she's sweating profusely. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what is she on? Like, man, she looks like she's just sweating profusely. And then, it leads into the mask comes off. I'm looking for testosterone. Mm-hmm. And then one of my favorite parts, because I think the ending of this episode is possibly my favorite. I know you were going to ask that question, but one of my favorite parts, 355 going secret agent.
Oh.
Like,
yeah. Secret
so cool,
agent woman goes off.
Just boom, boom, boom. Just knocking everybody out.
The one bullet gets shot off from one of those state troopers, and what an episode. What a sequence. What a great hand-to-hand combat thing. A sequence of events underneath the bleachers there. It is just so good.
Yeah.
And we're maybe at the halfway point of the episode. Maybe a little bit past the halfway point here. And I just don't want it to end. I can't have it end. It's so good. I'm so engaged. I just love it. And but the market, I do want to say, is very much so. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes here. I just got done talking about the musical score, and I'm like, oh, there's my note saying about score. But that market is straight out of the beginning of this book too. Yeah. And so with seeing this of what we have, I really think the only thing I really think we've started entering book 2 kind of pulling. And it'll be interesting to see if really then now, if we do book 1 and 2 basically for season 1 with little snippets of book 3 in there. Yeah. But what else? And then we have, so we have the chase, we have the fight, then we have the escape. Again, give us another great escape.
Yeah, driving through the market on a motorcycle.
That was so cool, though. Yeah. Like I loved it. And then they get to the bridge, and they have it out, 355 and York, of like the whole I don't owe you, like, you don't tell me anything, I don't owe you anything, like,
What I liked the most about that exchange was, it's funny how I have such a problem with this, even though like this is exactly how he was in the comic book, is Yorick's arrogance and selfishness of, he does not understand, grasp, acknowledge the severity of his situation, of who he is technically right now to the world. And that's exactly how it is with 355. Like, I don't know you. Like, I don't know you anything. Like, ever since you were born. All that stuff. Like, it bugged me throughout the show to see the selfishness of Yorick, and then I started to think to myself, like, you kind of got to get past that, because that's who Yorick was in the comic. That's who Yorick was all the way up until a certain point, which I won't talk about because it is kind of spoilers.
And that's like super spoiler because like they got to get to it in the show.
Exactly. No. That's why I'm not
in their own way, and like they do a really good job of it in like the comics and stuff. So like again, all we can say is
even when he gets past to that point, like he's still selfish in his own way. But like this is like the epitome that having at it with 355 on that bridge. That is the epitome of how selfish Yorick was.
But it also, like, I agree, you're not wrong. But I love it is showing that battle of friendship and growth that they are going to have.
Experience,
Yeah. And, like, because it's like, once you see where they are here with this and where they end up, like, later, even, I'm totally talking about what happens in the comic. I can only assume it is equally as awesome in the show with what they have planned for it. And I'm loving it. This has been an episode that I have been like really waiting for.
This is probably my favorite episode.
Yeah.
So far at least. I mean, because there's still, after this, 6 more, right?
Yeah, 6 more.
Yeah, so I mean, this is so far my favorite episode. Big transition from 3 to 4 for me. Kind of like a 180. Didn't dislike 3, but it just like this one I just think is exceptionally better.
And so like, if episode 3 was the slow burn, this is the firecracker.
Yeah.
Like, things are happening here, and even the stuff that is way more of like, I feel like the more intimate stuff of like really like the Nora, the Mac, the Sam storyline, like, excuse me, there's not like explosions and gunfights, and it's not like a Michael Bay movie going on like around them,
I probably wouldn't watch it if it was. And I mean full offense to that. I don't even care. I don't even care.
It's okay. But like, so their stuff is way more intimate, and so I have nothing more for the bridge or the market or the escape. That whole 10, 12-minute sequence that they give us, from when they first walk in to when we cut away from them on the bridge, and when I say them, I mean 355 in York, I just am loving it.
Yeah.
Everything about it. And then we get back to our wandering women of Nora, Mac, Sam. Well,
I mean, we discussed
Kim.
a little bit of this.
Sorry.
We discussed a little bit of this earlier, like, because like just kind of like because we did leave some stuff out. Like, they get back to the house. Nora tells them it actually is
St. Anne's Women's Shelter.
Yeah, for abused children and women. Actually,
for domestic violence.
Domestic violence. Yeah. So we kind of touched on that a little bit earlier. They had the conversation after Mackenzie goes to sleep, and they have like a conversation down there.
Nora asks for the names because this is where Nora asks for the names, and this is where Nora gets her personal W, in the fact that Hero gives the fake names. I know who you really are.
No, Nora has this. You see like this facial expression right off the bat, like she knows that Hero lied to her, and I know who you really are. And so we discussed that already.
But I'm also not going to call you out.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to, because that's a chip for her.
I'm going to save that in my little pocket.
But like, since we discussed that, move forward to them kind of after their conversations, everything like that. Sam goes to bed. Nora goes to check. No, I'm sorry, not Nora. That would have been weird. Hero goes to check on him, and then it leads into this kind of cute.
This is like...
It was a kind of cute experience at first, and then all of a sudden it turned into a little bit more...
Yeah, it was... It seemed like...
intimate...
It seemed like two friends just kind of...
clowning around and, like... Yeah.
You know, like, just having
taking a breather.
Just having that deep breath of, like, exhaling, of being like, we've got a minute. We've got a minute to talk here. And Hiro ruins it.
Makes a move.
And Hiro makes a move.
Makes him a cops a feel.
Totally. And it bothers me. Doesn't bother me that Hiro is looking for a relationship. It bothers me that Hiro is looking for a relationship with Sam that I don't believe Hiro actually wants. I think she is using Sam to distract Sam.
So I don't,
especially in this instance.
So I don't think it's like a relationship as in dating or anything. I think it's just it's companionship for that night, and exactly, Hiro's just using this right now to distract him, to think that it's gonna.
I only go back to what York said about 355. In the fact that, like, I don't want the distractions of sexy time and stuff. And,
so
like,
she uses
Hiro is trying to do that, and I hate that manipulation.
Yeah,
she does.
I think she just uses it as a distraction and stuff like that. And it plays into the backstory of she's a user, she's selfish, she's self-destructive, and she's cruel. Right. And I already have several times said in this episode that I cannot stand this backstory. I don't agree with it. Mm-hmm. And then they just play into it even a little bit more because we all know that's exactly what she's doing. And it kind of... Sam kind of catches on to that a little bit. He wants her to stay with him because he wants to feel the comfort. He doesn't want to sleep alone. They're friends.
They're friends.
But then he comes in with that line at the end.
So, like, having the companionship, traveling with a buddy, you know, like... We all love buddy adventure, but like the first thing that comes to mind is like the buddy cop adventure type movie or whatever.
She's just such a bad friend.
But like, yes, Hiro is a bad friend.
Such a bad friend to him. And he doesn't deserve this.
No. And like it really, it was at this point where I was like, man, I really think Sam messed up a lot by sticking around with Hiro and waiting for him.
Yeah,
like where
he should have just
Sam waiting
on,
for her Hiro.
But it like you said, they're friends, clearly best friends.
Yeah,
you know, and like that's why I was so at the end of everything when like they have that moment of okay, she tries to leave, he goes no, I want you to stay, and then he kind of
and then this is where Sam went from a character to me to an interesting character.
Yeah.
With his question.
Yeah.
What happened to the car? But what was the question you said you wanted him to say?
So what I wanted to hear him say was, what did you do to the car? And
talking directly to Hiro, the you is referencing Hiro in that question.
Yeah. What did you do to the car? And for one reason, stop letting her off the hook. You ask the question because you are accusing her, because you know that she did something to the car. Don't beat around the bush. Stop letting her off the hook. She's driving us insane already.
It's too convenient that the car just died. After you were like...
After you gave every excuse not to use it.
Right then and there.
Yes. So,
which bothered me.
Sam, stop letting her off the hook. It should have been, what did you do to the car? Let her sink into silence. You don't have to continue it. That's just to let her know. I know what you did. I know it was you.
I know what you did last summer.
Yeah.
But to the car.
Right on.
She killed the car.
I get it.
Sorry, I don't mean to do
But like that was what I would have liked that. Like, I wanted that confrontation.
What did you?
Yeah, confrontation, but that wasn't going to happen.
We talked about it before.
I want Sam to stick up for himself.
This, and I agree. We both wanted to hear that.
Yeah.
For sure. And saying what did you do instead of what happened to the car.
And then after that is when we see Nora.
Yeah, it is then where we're back with Nora. We have the name exchange and stuff, but then we have the horseback women.
So Nora's outside. She's breathing, she's just kind of like taking a quick breath, and then all of a sudden she hears the horses come up. Now, did you think that was just an absolutely cool shot of the silhouettes riding up the road? So awesome.
It
so awesome.
was, in this show, of like just a single like shot. I'm not talking like a sequence of like explosions or things like that. Like not like The Market, but just of like a quick 10-second shot of them coming up silhouetted like that. I was like, I got the image of, is Nora the fourth horsewoman in this? Because you only see 3 of them ride up in the shadow like that. Are they coming to collect their fourth? Are they? Is she going to be... Is that why she comes to the Amazons? And then does she become super crazy powerful that? I mean, I'm not saying she gets mystical powers because that would go against, like, things in the comic. That doesn't make sense. But, like, does she... Is that then, again, playing into our series-long theory so far?
I have a theory
that's
what's
how
going
the
to
Amazons...
happen. I have a prediction of what's going to happen. I could discuss that at the end, or we can wait until we move a little bit further on in the season. Or we could discuss it at the end. If not, I do have kind of a...
Sprinkle that Easter egg. Sprinkle those crumbs.
So, since we're getting into it, we run into... These Amazons come in. They basically take...
We think they're Amazons.
Okay, I'm just saying they're Amazons, all right? I'm saying they're Amazons because it came on horseback, and she says one thing to Sam... Why would you want to be a man?
Yep.
That's why I say those are the Amazons. But with that being said, they take the 4 of them away with them because Nora saves them by saying that Hero is a doctor, their friend is sick.
They hear that their friend Kate, Nora, and all of them, like that group. They hear that these Amazon women who we think Amazon women on the horses, their friend was shot. Her name is Kate. Nora runs her mouth, does the little bit of information, gives a little nugget of goodness.
She's a doctor. She can help your friend. So they all end up there, and Hero does help their friend. She does what she can for her friend. Mm-hmm. And the reason... So this is... Roxanne comes in, and this is where my kind of prediction and theory comes from. So I firmly believe that Roxanne is the leader of the Amazons as of right now. Either they're calling themselves that or not. I say it's the leader of the Amazons, and that is where Nora comes in, and Nora finds her confidence, and she's got her backup now because I think she's going to convince Hero to really take her side. And Nora and Roxanne have the feud, and somehow Nora becomes almost like the Victoria from the comic books of the Amazon. So that's just my prediction right now.
Nora, Victoria. Questions to be had.
But yeah, I mean that is actually the ending of the episode, and that is when Roxanne. So Roxanne comes in. She
got one more thing about you.
I know, and I actually want to touch on that last.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
So Roxanne will come in. She takes care of Kate because we find out that Hero did what she could, but she was going to need an actual trauma surgeon.
Yeah. So she was going to need a doctor, a trauma surgeon, and that was like that was wishful thinking
almost, I think. So that's where my prediction comes in. I think Roxanne is and Nora kind of have a feud because what does Nora say to Hero?
Yeah.
What I love about that is what she says to Hero is, don't let them know who your mother is.
Don't tell them who your mother is.
She's like,
and Hero stops, looks at her, jaw dropped. I worked at the White House. I know who you are, Karen.
So with those 3 lines
awesome.
Right there, I think that's where Nora's starting to get her confidence back, and that's where it's kind of go to like...
I have an alternate take.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so I don't disagree that we could have just met the Amazons here.
Yeah.
Okay. The horses, I totally agree, lean to that. The thing is that they were just at the St. Anne's Women's shelter. What if, for a comparison, book 2. What if they take the Marysville, Ohio line from the comic, and what if we just got it introduced here?
It could be.
Instead. And, like, that's my alternate take. I'm not sold on it. There's enough here to totally think that that's valid because in the comics it's a women's prison that women have then started their own little community, and the last images we see of this episode are these women walking into what is a warehouse, Sam's Club, Costco type building. Superstore filled with food and all kinds of supplies, which it's really seeing that made me lead to the book 2 comparison about the Marysville, Ohio, and the
is
women's
it Marysville
prison.
or is it Marysville?
Could be Marysville, and I'm a little dyslexic. I could be mixing up letters.
You're not mixing up letters. I just think I don't think either one of us are certain on the pronunciation because when I was reading it, I was like,
all right,
Mville.
Mville.
Because I was like, because that bugs me. If I think I'm pronouncing something wrong, I'm like, screw it. I'm not even gonna try and pronounce it. I'm just gonna make up something for it and move on. So I agree that would be good too, especially since also the Stades wives.
Yeah.
The Stades wives could have possibly been the ones that either released them from prison if they go with that storyline, or Roxanne is the leader of this group.
Because it with them coming from the women's shelter and being there, that makes sense. Their aversion to men also makes sense because they were domestic violence survivors and stuff. You know, like they saw their own traumas there, so them automatically, and that also goes with like, why would you want to be a man?
Yeah.
Like,
okay. Yeah.
And like, so
that also, very good point.
So that is why I think it's a coin toss, man. That like,
we've got 2 really good theories on what possibly they could go with, so.
And like both of them make sense, and this is why I have loved this episode. And we haven't even talked about our last little favorite bit, and that is the last bit between 355 and York,
which actually happens right before we meet Roxanne with
the whole ending with Hero that we were just discussing. But this little bit of York and 355 for me, this is what I have been wanting in this series, to see their friendship grow, because we've seen them have different ideas about different situations. We see them clash heads, and we've seen them make jokes at each other. But this is the first time that we actually see like let's have fun in this messed up world, and the simplest fun there is.
I think it's more also let's have a legitimate conversation instead of just let's get to know each other from actually talking to each other. Like, she asked him to do a magic trick, which is something he hasn't done for her because he's a
self-proclaimed escape artist.
Exactly, and he hasn't done anything like that because it's beneath me and stuff like that. But also at the same time, she hasn't cared.
Yeah,
she hasn't cared, and she realizes that now she was a little bit, I guess, demanding of him to do certain things, to act a certain way, and she's asking somebody she doesn't even know
to take an order like a soldier.
Which
he is not.
Which he's not. He's a jerk. He's a jerk, and I love him, but he's a jerk.
I agree. But 355 has learned that I can have that sternness and stuff when dealing with other soldiers, the pilots. I can even have that kind of tone even with the president, because she understands that she is used to having that kind of tone. This is a job. This is a mission.
Right. York doesn't understand that.
He has no concept of it
because he's a jerk. Because he's a big jerk. Spoiled brat jerk. But anyway,
all things that 355 says to him.
Yeah, basically.
And she even says it on
this is a nice on the bridge. Yeah. This is a nice segue of their to them actually. The
card trick.
The card trick is great. It's really fun. I like the conversation on how she says, I'm going to help you look for Beth. And he's really surprised. That's why he's totally willing to do that card trick. And he does it correctly. Now,
she agrees to it after the card trick, not
Oh,
before.
okay.
So that is, and the fact that, here's the thing. So he shuffles the card and is like, blah, 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 blah. Pick a card. Make sure I don't see it. So 355 picks it up. She looks at it. She puts it back down there. He shuffles it up some more. He does that really great, like,
sleight of hand.
Like, he spins them kind of like that and stuff. He does this really great spinning shuffle of the cards, and then he splits it into one pile. Splits it. She picks up the card, and he's like, "This is your card." She's like, "No, it's not." And he gives this really great performance of like, "Wait, that's not your card."
Oh.
And he leans back a little bit, like,
close.
"Oh, that's because your card's right here." Yeah. And he tosses it down, and there is a genuine moment of pure shock on 355 because 355 as a special agent has been trained to catch sleight of hand, and York got her.
Yeah.
York got her, and he sold it by doing the misdirect of, "This is your card." And she's like, "No, it's not." And then pulling out the other one.
So.
And then she agrees, "Once we find Dr. Mann, I will help you look for Beth."
So. I love that because the sign of relief shows on his face. But there is something very interesting with that card trick, the ending of it, and I kind of want to end on this question and kind of like maybe like go through our final thoughts. Did you notice what her card was?
The Ace of Hearts.
Right.
Yeah.
What does an ace in basically blackjack, or it can stand for what? 1
or 11.
1 or 11. So 1 heart. I don't know. I think that means something. I think that's foreshadowing, and I think if comic book readers know, I think what I'm talking about. Okay, the 1 heart.
These are the breadcrumbs. I'm not playing a piano.
Think about it. Just think about where I'm going with this. So,
you're on to something. That's a take. That's a hot take here. But you're right, dude. Like, I do not disagree with that in any way, shape, or form. I
just think it's foreshadowing.
I didn't even think about it. Leaving me questions.
Yeah, I know.
Food for thought. But yeah, no. So like, let's wrap it up then. What is final thoughts? I got yours. Mine is that we're officially getting Man in the next episode.
I would believe so.
Like, final, and I mean, no. Due to the trailers for episode 5 and stuff.
Oh, I didn't watch trailers. I don't watch trailers.
Oh yeah.
Everything's a surprise to me. Everything is fresh to me, and I do that with movies too. Did with The Dark Knight, except for the teaser trailer. I didn't watch anything.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Didn't you? Well,
did it for everything, basically. I've been trying to do it for Marvel, but that's terrible.
So we're getting Dr. Mann, and I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited to see, because the other reason of why I think that we could have seen a pseudo version of the prison is that really the Amazons are introduced in Boston in the comic, which is in book 1 and stuff.
Sure.
So I think we might be seeing them once we get to Boston and we see Dr. Mann.
Sure.
And we get introduced with that. The real final question here is, what makes you recommend this show? I say...
This episode alone makes me recommend. I really like this episode.
Agreed.
The acting is great. I mean, we've gone over that with Diane Lane. Everybody, I mean, you say 355 so far has been your favorite. Mine is still Yorick. I think
I'm not hating on York.
Oh no, I know. But what I'm saying is mine is Yorick. I still the connection I felt with Yorick in the comic book. I feel this is exactly how I interpreted Yorick to act, to sound, to be if I was reading it. So I think that's been great. I love the acting. I think it's a very intense storytelling. I think they're doing a good job of pacing also on how they're doing it. Because like sometimes like in movies and
TV.
in TV, it's just kind of fast track it. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, Lord of the Rings was, basically a 40-year tale or something like that. I don't even know. I think it took like 20 years to get out of the Shire by itself. And the movies did that in a year.
Yeah.
That was a year war. Totally unbelievable. I love Lord of the Rings. Walking Dead, same thing. Like, they kind of fast tracked that too. I think they're doing a good job at the pacing. I know it's definitely quicker than what is the actual time frame in the comic books is. I know it's going at a quicker pace, but I think they're still pacing it out pretty decently.
I actually think that this has done a really good job because through even episode now 4, we're still only at what I would call book 1 and book 2 in the series out of the 10 books that they made total for the comic.
Oh no, but like what I'm saying though for that though is like, from book 1 to book 2 is almost a year.
Yeah.
It's almost a year. I mean, clearly it's only been like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
It's maybe been a couple months before they're
Right.
making their way to Boston. So
That speed up they are doing.
But I still think even though a couple of months to a year,
it works though.
That works. That pacing works. I think by the end of this
They
season,
played fast and loose with it in the first 2 episodes with like the snow and stuff, but now they kind of seem to have gone away from like talking about snow and showing snow on the ground and stuff because that was fast and loose.
Yeah.
But what makes me recommend this episode to somebody is still I gotta go back to the cast. You're talking about York. I'm still talking about Ashley Romans as 355. We were talking about Diane Lane. It's the cast. The reason to watch this show is the cast.
Everybody's playing
They are
very well.
so good. And the reason to read the comic is to be entertained because that comic is one of the best there is.
It's one of the. It's my favorite, so it's always been it's always been very fun. Jimmy's taking it. He's pacing himself. I've like been reading a book a day.
He came over. I'll be done
tomorrow.
9.
I'll be done tomorrow. Probably with the whole series. So
we gave you an extra long episode. I
Yeah.
think we're almost at an hour 15, almost an hour 20 here. So we are done for today. Thank you for joining us here on the Triple C Collective commentary track comparisons. Why the Last Man, episode 4. We will be back next week with episode 5. You have a great day. Any sign off? Awesome.
where's Beth?
See ya, everybody. Where is Beth?